Alright, this is the Steel Division Normandy 1944 12th SS overview. So let's get started on the income. Fairly good Phase A income, very good Phase B income, which is quite important. It's going to be a good chunk of the match. And like a lot of German divisions, it spikes in Phase B, and then C is much lower. Let's get into the tabs. 12th SS historically was one of the less experienced divisions. It had its leadership stripped from, I believe, the 2nd SS, but most of the troops were Hitler Youth members, and then the tanks were not particularly experienced. Alright, so we go to the recon tab. You have so a lot of what you're going to see in the recon tab is instead of 222s in Phase A, you're going to have these guys. The Panzerbusch 41s, which are a little bit better because they have an HE round, not a very good one. They can kind of fight vehicles, but they're not terribly accurate, and they're fairly short ranged. Still a threat to vehicles, though, not terrible. You have SS Spay Troop, and I'll get into what SS does when we get to the infantry tab. These come in a PSW 221, just a machine gun carrying vehicle. You have your 8 rad with autocannon, the 231, less armor than the 234, I believe, but it's what the 12th has. Autocannons are pretty good against light vehicles, especially when they get within about 600 meters. They get much more effective. 222s. This does have 222s in Phase A, so it's just light autocannon carrying car again. So they get some Spay Troop with Stummels here later on. The Stummel track is pretty useful. Relatively short range, but fairly good support vehicle. Alright, let's get into what SS does. So the SS tag provides a buff to accuracy and rate of fire, but the big, really prominent effect of SS is a unit with the SS tag, the infantry SS tag, will never get totally pinned down. The bar will go to the maximum, and they will never get pinned down. They'll never surrender for that reason. They will never totally stop firing. Now, their fire does become less effective over time with suppression, but they will never stop firing. They'll just fire less effectively. Standard Panzer Grenadier Stoss Troop, not quite as good in the mod. They have a lot of troops are more deadly up close, making them a little bit less effective. They do have Panzerfaust and smoke grenades. The normal Stoss Troop have grenade bundles, which make them a little bit better. But these guys are SS, so they don't surrender up close. So maybe they might be a good choice here. MG42 team, very standard machine gun team. SS indicate, they have a buff to their rate of fire and accuracy, making this even better. Panzer Grenadier with Panzerfaust. You'll notice the SS troops have a significant price hike. The normal Panzer Grenadier with Panzerfaust is 35 points, just like vanilla, but the SS version's 45 for that very reason. You get Panzer Grenadiers in half tracks, which, just like the Americans, are cheaper than they are cheaper. Panzer Grenadier Fuhrer, same half tracks, usual stuff. The thing is, while they don't have stars, which means they get suppressed pretty quick, even if they don't get pinned. A lot of use, kind of standard type troops. Panzer Grenadiers are better up close than in vanilla because their machine guns no longer have a minimum range. This makes them very formidable at all ranges, so just keep that in mind. They will not generally get beat by double SMG rifles like they did in vanilla. Pioneer Führer, fairly same as vanilla, just a Führer with a grenade. They come in a stumble card, just like vanilla. Stern Pioneers have a flamethrower. Flamethrowers are very effective in the mod. They they're very effective, and they can be fired on the move in the mod. So just keep that in mind. Pioneers, fairly similar to vanilla. Um, Not as useful because other infantry fights better up close now, but they're still pretty useful. They're just big phase C cards. Awesome non-SS Panzer Grenadiers if you want with cheaper, but they do get pinned. Yeah, Storm Pioneers are SS. Okay. Tanks. Alright, what you're going to see, unlike a lot of the other Panzer divisions, they do not have very many elite or SS crewed vehicles. That the tanks they're cheaper for it, but they are not very they're cheaper, but just not as effective. They don't have the veteran crew tag. They're just normal tanks with their normal accuracy and rate of fire. They do have a Phase A Panzer IV, which is a formidable opponent for Shermans. And then you get, but they do have a lot of morale, like 3 stars on the command vehicles. The command vehicles are elite crew, by the way. All German leader tanks are considered elite crew. Unlike in vanilla, they don't have the Firefly in Phase A, they get it in Phase B, but it is more economical than the Panthers, and still quite good against Shermans and M10s and that type. You do have some Panthers in Phase B. Nothing particularly amazing about them, but Panthers are always good, especially when you get your money. High morale Panzer IVs and a lot more Panthers for Phase C. Phase C is shorter than B in the standard game, so you may not want to stock up on these. This is the only elite Panther in the division, though, so you might consider taking that. Anyway, Panthers are really tough. 12 or 13 front armor is a real challenge for the Allies to deal with. If you can keep them from getting flanked or stunned, they will do a number. And they are cheaper than they are in the vanilla game. A lot cheaper, in fact. They're just less available. Panzer IVs are more than a match for Shermans at range. As I said before, they can kill virtually anything the Allies have, and the Allies can't kill them as well with the normal 75mm guns. The 76s, however, or the 17-pounders will shred these things. And even if you close the range a little bit, the 75 will be a problem for these as well. Firefly, a little bit more immune to that, and doesn't have the special ammo, by the way, but you don't really need it against the Allies. Other than that, this mod is very favorable to heavy tanks. So the Allies will be relying on air power to get rid of you if they don't have 17-pounders. We go to the support tab. For the Germans, the light mortars, the 50mm mortars, have been moved to the support tab. Their range is much shorter than in vanilla, but they're in the support tab, which is a little different. 30 points, not much HE, but they're mortars in their support tab. You got the stumble track, which is really cheap and good value. It can engage at close range with the heat round. It's potentially useful at that, but it's just a really good deal for 30 points. 259, your basic autocannon track, as I said, useful. 232, same sort of deal. Command vehicle though. IG-18s can fire indirectly now, with a fairly short range and not much power, but they're better in direct fire, quite a bit better. Much like vanilla, they get the Boy to Cromwell, but the Boy to Cromwell is not as dominant as it was in vanilla. It's good fire support, much like the stumble track, but it's short range, no heat round either. The grill, powerful. It's actually a pretty good artillery piece, and then you'll see it can be fired indirectly with HE20, which it's pretty damn powerful. Very useful for its price. Supply trucks. Um, the flamethrower track is a bit is it's actually its range is dropped, but so has anti-tank weapons range dropped. It's potentially very useful depending on what kind of infantry your opponent has. IG-18s again, grill, more supply trucks. For anti-tank weapons, you have the option of SS Panzerschreck teams, which generally with a Panzerschreck team is going to die before it gets stunned anyway, but the accuracy and rate of fire is pretty nice. Normal Martyr 2. Martyrs are very hit or miss in terms of what they can do. Uh, it's very RNG dependent because they're only 2 armor. Pretty much anything with like even a 37mm gun can engage them effectively, but they are dirt cheap for a thing that can kill Sherman tanks. So Pack 40s, SS Pack 40s. Yep, they never get pinned. Um, they have increased rate of fire and accuracy, and Pack 40s are your bread and butter for defending against Allied tanks. They can kill Shermans easily, Cromwells, even the heavier like Churchills. The heavy Churchills can be penetrated with the special ammo. Very useful, and the RSS tagged. The Jagdpanzer. So the Jagdpanzer 4, it changed from vanilla to this game. It doesn't have as much relative armor as the other tanks. It's mostly a armored vehicle in the anti-tank tab now. It doesn't have a hugely increased amount of armor from other vehicles. Stugs have 8 or 7, and so this has 9, which is a little bit better. It's tougher for Shermans to beat them. Same thing, and there are some SS crewed Jagdpanzer 4s now. They are, and then the SS crew doesn't. So SS crewed tanks and vehicles do not have the benefit. They can be stunned to all the way. They will fall back if they're stunned all the way. But the advantage in the mod, vehicles don't automatically retreat at half suppression anymore. That was really annoying, and the removal of that is a really nice touch. Anti-aircraft. These 20mm guns are very useful in place to support defenses with anti-light vehicle fire and just anti-infantry fire. Same thing on a truck. Same thing in an armored chassis. And then you have the 3.7 centimeter, which is very effective against aircraft. You get the same kind of stuff. 88s, they one-shot planes, but they have a very low chance to do so, and they have a minimum range. They're still really good against tanks, good HE, but they get taken out easier because they don't have the massive crew that they do that vanilla does. Same sort of deal. Flak Fearlings, similar to vanilla, very deadly, short range though. AA in general is much more effective in this mod than in vanilla. It will shoot down planes if you invest enough in it, especially if they take a bad run around. Alright, we got artillery, 81mm mortars, kind of basic stuff, similar in the mod to in the normal game. Good fire support. Off-map artillery, so off-map, as I said in the previous division summary, you get one shot with it. Barrage is pretty good, but one shot, 95 points for that. Nebel Warfers, not quite as good as in the vanilla, but they are very powerful and they will knock out whatever they hit. Normal howitzer, this is very common in German divisions. You're going to see these pretty much everywhere. just another card. You got the track mounted mortars, you got heavy mortars, a lot of artillery options. Heavy mortars have longer range now, they're quite powerful, and also pretty much artillery in general has functionally near infinite range for like big howitzers and big mortars. Like you're not going to be short on range for just about any artillery. SK-18, very long range. BAfkEB and the Hummel, fairly similar. They have a low rate of fire. This one's more powerful, obviously. The BAfkEB is cheaper and more available. It's up to you to decide which one you want. Of course, more Naval Warfare 41s with high morale. You get a Panzer IV with artillery, although of course in vanilla the artillery firing Panzer IVs could fight, so it's fairly standard artillery tab for a German armored division. In the air tab, you're going to see Axis air tab. You only get 3 slots, and your options are very slim. You get bomber Stukas and Storches in A. You finally get a fighter in B, and some limited bombing in B, and then in Phase C you actually start getting your good attack planes. This is not true for all divisions. Some divisions have better access to some Axis divisions have better access to air power earlier than this division, but as a general rule, you're going to be behind in the air with Axis. Unless you have a point advantage, you're going to be behind. Like, the Allies are going to have better access to attack planes sooner than you. So, all this is Phase C stuff, and it's fairly expensive and not much availability. But you'll probably be focusing on fighters. The advantage is you have less delay on your call-in planes than the Allies do, to reflect that your airfields are closer. Alright, so I've gone over the 12th SS. I consider this a fairly balanced panzer division. You'll want to use this if you want SS infantry and less expensive tanks. Other than that, it's not terribly special. It's not quite like it was in vanilla with the terror of the Boita Firefly and then Michael Whitman. Michael Whitman is in a different division in this mod, and yeah, he's in the first SS Panzer division, which got added to this mod fairly recently. I'll go over that division later, but overall balanced division, kind of like vanilla. Just SS infantry units available. Not much else. Standard Panzer division in other respects other than the captured tanks. Aside from that, I think let's wrap it up. So if you guys have any comments or concerns, feel free to comment in the YouTube comments. Let me know what's good, bad in these videos and what you'd like to see. And thank you for watching.